Support the show, try CuriosityStream, and get Nebula for free.
To live a life of freedom, machos make a stand. Have your own lifestyles and ideals. Possess the strength of confidence. That's the skill. You can best believe that he's a macho man. Macho man. I want to be a macho man. But what does it all mean? Can it go too far? It can. Let's kick into it. Welcome back, everyone. Episode 4 of 4 on dad parents. Today, though, what happens if the dad goes a little too hard in the paint? What happens if dad slides into home and is a little bit too much dad? What, am I going a little too hard on the sports metaphors here? I think I am. Everyone knows the traditional American dad from the 20th century, right? You're picturing it in your head right now. You're sitting in a dark study, working or whatever, probably got glasses, probably wearing a button-up, maybe even still wearing your tie at home for some reason, ignoring the kids, calling the nanny or the mom anytime the kids want to interact with them, shouting at them to get out of my study. Today, we have a different, broader idea of what a dad is and can be. And I like to think of Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Subtitle, The One About Daddy Issues. When Yondu said, "He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't daddy." Oh, that hit me. He said, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." I legit ugly laugh cried. Intergalactic smuggler or no, the best ones do right by their kids and are present, engaged, and involved. Even if they're gruff, sometimes distant, no parent is perfect, and they're struggling to share their emotional baggage with their children and make sure that the kids understand where they're coming from. And Yondu, he wanted to share. He wanted to connect. He struggled with it, and he worked on it. And in no universe, Marvel Cinematic, Earth 616, or our own, would we say that Yondu was a model father. But you can't say he didn't have that direct involvement. You can't say that he wasn't present, involved, and engaged. Being a man, being manly, those are stereotypes. The Mary Poppins line is funny, in part because Mary Poppins is a female character. The problem is when we get to stereotypes, because they can affect how kids are raised, even subconsciously. Stereotypes would have you think that the men have to be manly as manly can be. And they affect how we see the world, how we see each other, and how we see ourselves. In the 1970s, there was this new parenting theory. It was growing in popularity. It's called attachment theory. During this, they studied the infant-mother bond, and they felt that this bonding moment was not just the most significant time for attachments in a human's life, it was paramount that they protect it, and that mom would be the primary relationship for the baby, period. That's it. They were entirely focused on mother-baby bonding. And what they missed is the other parent, dad-infant attachment. They didn't really think it was that important, and more research is always needed, as I like to say. But do you think that those researchers were all men, ignoring involvement because of their own biases and stereotypes? They'd go to work and they'd study how infants bond, and then they would go home to their own kids and chase them out of their studies? I mean, I don't know, but maybe. This attachment theory resulted in more and more research showing that birthing parents were important in raising children, and it wasn't until later that they started to realize the importance of their non-birthing partners. And we internalized these stereotypes in the meantime, and we continue them today. Many people still believe that men don't really have much to do when it comes to parenting, and they could not be more wrong. Science has now said that men are involved right from the get-go. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, go back, because it turns out dads, non-birthing partners, affect things even before the birth happens. And stereotypes hurt non-birthing parents. Quote, "Men might think they're not very communal and thus wouldn't be very good at taking care of a baby." I call this the one provider stereotype. The stereotype is men should be at work. It keeps relationships detached, it discourages emotional attachment, so you're just at work and you indirectly provide for the kid. We know from science that that means you're not present, engaged, and involved. You're not there. So maybe you're not harming the kids, but you're also not giving them the benefits of being present, engaged, and involved. Children are learning how the world works. In reality, men should be there for child rearing, at least at the beginning. And it's much better to learn from 2 teachers than 1 because they have different views of the world. I have hit this basketball into the hoop, I hope, again and again. There are types of mental, physical, and emotional interactions that 2 parents will provide better. Another stereotype that we need to break down is the women's work stereotype. I started the whole series with this. The stereotype says that men don't raise kids, that's women's work. But women do so many things in our society, and in reality, men should be raising kids too. Many cultures globally align with that, not with men don't raise kids, they just give them to somebody else. And some animals even have males raising kids. Like in mountain gorillas, males, they spend time with infant gorillas who are and aren't their own, grooming and playing and resting. And those gorillas who do the most grooming and resting and playing with infants sire more young long term. A lot of people don't associate higher primates with having men in the picture, but gorillas, they're there. For us, the evidence is way back in part 1. There's huge cognitive, social, and economic benefits for our offspring that last their entire life when their non-birthing parent shows up, especially early on. The last stereotype I wanted to highlight is the break them stereotype, as I call it. This is the stereotype that babies are delicate little lumps of helplessness, and in reality, babies, they're fine-tuned eating and learning machines, growing more synapses in their brains than we do in a day. They grow like hundreds, and we don't really grow that many. The resilient, surprisingly strong baby is the reality, not the stereotype. 19th century researchers dangled babies from sticks. No joke, this really happened. And the newborns could hold and support their own weight, the weakest for several seconds and the strongest for several minutes. I might even struggle to do that at the gym, but a baby right out of the womb can do it. They can swim, they can hold their breath while underwater. This is instinct. You put a baby in the water, they'll dog paddle. These are the realities. Babies can do a lot more than you think. You're not gonna break it. And these stereotypes have affected me personally because I used to believe babies were scary. They have soft spots and they cry and they can't tell you what's wrong, which is all true, but you're not gonna break it. That baby wants to be alive. They're gonna try and live. You just have to learn how to communicate with them. The baby could not care less about your sex organs, chromosomes, or gender identity. You're not less of a man if you change a diaper. You could actually argue you're more present, engaged, and involved, and thus you're more of a man. Though, I don't like that because I don't think anybody can ever be less of a man, ever. Like seriously, whatever example you're thinking of, like, oh, that guy's less of a man? No, they're the same amount of a man. What they are is different. And maybe in this case, they're more well-rounded and more skilled. More skills, better at life, better at family, better at community, present, engaged, and involved. You're not less of what you were, you're more of something new. But unfortunately, we hang on to these stereotypes. And when we do that, it hurts us and it can hurt the kids. Partners can endorse gender stereotypes too. It's not just men. What I'm saying is, we humans stereotype. This is a symptom of what we would call the patriarchy or toxic masculinity, which, by the way, is not men are bad. TM is the idea that some traits are harmful, period. It's like Queen Brittany saying a guy like you should wear a warning because you're toxic and you're slipping under. But instead of Brittany, it's Kevin Schaefer, Richard Petz, and Lee Essig. Better. Good work, kings. These sociology nerds found that there are some very beneficial aspects of masculinity. Play, loyalty, goal-oriented attitudes. I talked about these in the first 3 parts. But there are also some toxic traits. Aggression, detached relationships, not showing emotion, failing to ask for help. And the research suggests that these toxic traits can hurt families. How? Lower academic achievement, more behavioral issues, kids are less happy. And meanwhile, men who kept their toxic traits in check raised offspring with fewer behavioral problems, higher psychological well-being, and better academic outcomes. It's a correlation, but it's a good one. Almost 3,000 dads were used in this 2018 study that found it out. I know this is a lot, but knowing this, hopefully we can combat these stereotypes. And there are a lot of levels to unpack. But to unpack them, you're gonna need time. How do we make sure that dads can be present, engaged, and involved if they can't be present? If they don't have leave to come home? Non-birthing parents need to be able to take time off to be present. Dads want other dads to be dads. 90 out of 187 countries offer paid leave for dads. The USA is not one of them. We actually don't offer any paid leave for anyone. And as per usual, in the world, especially the developed world, we're going Han Solo. Not in a good way. Ugh. Meanwhile, in Canada, a nearby country with a similar economy, plans range from 15 to 76 weeks of paid required parental leave. That is more than a year. Remind me, is the Canadian economy breaking down? Is it trash because of this? Are Canadians somehow less manly? Let's go to the tape.
Here is a wonderland of nature, breathtaking in its grandeur.
Now don't do it for yourself though. Do it for your children, eh?
From out over Canada, these men have come.
Nope. Seems pretty great. Even in countries that do offer paid leave, less than half of dads actually take that leave. And why? Again, stereotypes. In one survey of over 500 US fathers, 2/3 admitted that there was an unspoken rule that men at their jobs should not take full paternity leave. To quote Thekla Morgenroth, if other people are taking parental leave at a specific company, it shows that taking parental leave is normal and acceptable. And at this point, when I was coming up with this episode, my psych brain tingled. I have a behavioral psychology degree, and I remembered something from college. It's called the psychosocial cycle, or the victim's escape model. Your boss wants you to work. You want to go on leave. And your boss will lose a worker, which is a negative thing for them. So the boss makes fun of you, and then you don't take leave. When the boss makes fun of you and you don't take leave, you're no longer made fun of, so it encourages you to not take leave. This is called, again, the psychosocial cycle. Put technically, aversive behavior is reinforced by the attention, approval, or compliance of another person. The aversive behavior in this case is the boss stereotyping and making fun of you, and you not going on leave.
This kind of stuff is like seeing the code in the Matrix. I love it.
One more quote for you. Men who take parental leave can face a backlash and can be seen as weak, lacking work commitment, which can result in consequences at work, such as being demoted or not being taken seriously. That is ridiculous. And that psychosocial cycle is what keeps men from going on leave, even when leave is offered, and it often is. And instead, they said in this survey, taking as little leave as possible was a badge of honor. But they admitted that they felt pressured to leave the kid and come back to work. That's the psychosocial cycle. And these men wanted to stay home with their kids, but they felt like they couldn't. Why? Stereotypes. They don't want these stereotypes, but they feel trapped by the psychosocial cycle. So how do we get dads to be present, engaged, and involved? We take the leave. That's it. Paid parental leave has been implemented over and over and over again. And it's great because it's an experimental condition. You didn't have paid leave, and then you did. When Germany and Sweden implemented leave for everyone, that they found that the parents were happier, people wanted to have more kids, it boosted fathers' emotional investment and connection with infants, and it didn't economically break the place. It actually did fine. Fun sidebar, PFL actually increases fertility rates. They didn't even think about that. You probably didn't think about that little sperm nugget, did you? That's right. If you give people PFL, they want to have more kids. So you want to have more people born? You can do that. People felt like they were safe to have a family without hurting their incomes, their businesses, their coworkers, or their social standing. And it turns out, if you give people just a little stipend, they spend it, which helps the economy, keeps families out of poverty, keeps the kid fed, watered, diapered, and entertained, and of course, allows the parents to be, say it with me now, present, engaged, and involved. In 2004, California rolled out a massive paid family leave program. Again, experimental condition. It increased women's employment and wage earnings. It increased employer attachment, as in people stayed at their employer longer. It increased time spent with children, of course, lowered the risk of poverty by 10%, increased household income by 4%, had less food insecurity amongst Californians, and fewer people were using social services long term. New Jersey also implemented a program and found similar effects. In surveys of the population, they found here in California, 90% of businesses reported a positive or neutral effect on productivity when they implemented this. 99% reported neutral to positive employee morale, and 96% said the costs did not change at all or actually went down. And it's spreading here in the US because it's good for everyone, economically, sociologically. Whew. PFL, it's a big deal, and it's awesome. Being a good dad, a good partner, and a good employee all at the same time, good Could you ask for more? Those couple extra hours every day when dads or partners take the kids to school, deal with them when they're sick, you're spreading your parental resources around by having two parents to do that. Ultimately, if people have paid family leave, they become present, engaged, and involved parents. Because they have to be. They're home. And if more than one parent is present, engaged, and involved, the kid is gonna benefit. And that is why we need to smash some stereotypes, give people leave, and let dads be dads, even if those dads are not male. Because it doesn't matter. Asking what a dad does for a kid is like asking what grandma does for a kid, or what a mom does for a kid, or what a pet does for a kid. We want to quantify it, but the number of things are so complex, so individual, cultural, and ethnically influenced, socioeconomically dependent, that it's impossible to say that dads provide X, and I can get that if the dad goes to work by doing Y. Dads need to be present, engaged, and involved. Before I wrap up though, here's an advert. Please stick around. I think the thing I'm taking away from this series most is that knowledge is one of the most valuable, longest lasting things we can give anyone, including our kids. But I may as well give you some too. Because when I have a few minutes to learn something new, I'll turn to creators on Nebula. Jordan Herod helps me learn about AI, Devin helps me learn about the law, Polyphonic tells me things about music that I had no idea that I wanted to know, and I love music. I don't talk about it too much on here, but I took all the music appreciation and music psychology classes. I played in the band, and when I worked at the museum, I played the fife and the bugle and the drum. I love music, and I love learning new things as well. So if you like supporting creators like Polyphonic and Devin and Jordan, Nebula should be your jam. We've got more than 100 creators. We add regular uploads and extra content all the time to Nebula. Plus, we make original programs and podcasts about all sorts of things. And sometimes I might want something more traditional or TV-like or longer form, and then I'll go to Curiosity Stream because they love creators too. So when you sign up for CS, you get Nebula. It's only $14.79 a year. That's less than $1.25 a month. That's for everything. It's super affordable. I was on Curiosity Stream the other day and I was watching Can a Computer Write a Musical? It's awesome. I've never met a music doc or a biopic that I'm not gonna watch. I won't spoil it for you. It's awesome, but these guys saw the show. It's amazing, right? Check out both Curiosity Stream and Nebula. Use offer code TRACE at curiositystream.com/trace. You're gonna support indie creators and you're gonna learn some new stuff, which like I said, is one of the best gifts we can give each other. Thanks so much for watching. Happy holidays. Let's wrap this series up. Okay, I don't know how you feel about this series. I don't know if this series is gonna even do well. I kinda don't care because I didn't do this to convince you of anything. Okay, so this is the video. I'm literally editing it right now. I needed to reshoot this outro because the original one was out of focus. But also, I just wanted to tell you a couple of things. One, I did this series because I was nervous as hell about being a dad. I cope by learning new things and like soaking up as much information as possible. You probably knew that about me. Wow, that got big really fast. I'm getting emotional. Anyway, to be honest, even after all this, I'm still nervous. I'm worried I'm not gonna be a good dad. I'm worried I'm gonna f it up. I'm gonna break the kid, even though I know that's a stereotype that I shouldn't worry about. It gets ingrained in us. Just knowing it doesn't magically make it go away. I don't want the kid to grow up and hate me or be weird or whatever. But you know what, my dudes? We're gonna screw this up. That's life. The idea is to make a kid as well balanced as best as we can. We're gonna be present, we're gonna be engaged, we're gonna be involved. That doesn't automatically make us a good dad, but it does mean that we put in the time and the effort. Even if you only do it for a few weeks or a few months, it might last forever. Even after I'm dead, the kid is gonna be out there, kicking, being awesome, doing cool stuff. And that's gonna be because I was able to be present, engaged, and involved. And you can do the exact same thing. Do as much as you can when you can. No family, no parental unit, no man, no woman, no human is without issues. Just try and be there as much as possible. That is so important to being a parent, or so I'm about to learn over the next rest of my life. Which is why I have a second announcement. I'm gonna take some time off. Because if I've learned anything from this series, it's that I gotta be present, engaged, and involved in raising my kid, who is right here. Hi, YouTube. So me and Raphael are gonna take some time off. And maybe I'll pop in here and there. I'll always be on Twitter because, you know, I'm still here. I'm just not making videos because I got something else to do right now. But I'll be back, don't you worry. 2022 is gonna be sweet. I got some great ideas. Raphael probably won't be part of them yet, maybe someday. But for now, have a happy holiday, and I will see y'all in 2022.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.